What is happening, everybody? MG here. MG Covers, bringing you a brand new handicapping video. The title of this video: Stop Playing Public Teams. I'm going to say it again: stop playing public teams. I'm going to break all this down, make it real simple for you to understand why you should not do that. Before we do that, as always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Love to have you as a subscriber. If you want to learn more about sports handicapping, there is a ton of content on my page. Tons. All right. And if there's a particular video that you would like to see me make, post that in the comments. Say, hey, I'd love to see you make a video about whatever it is about sports handicapping. And I will see if I can do that. If you want to follow me on social media, it's MG Covers, Covers spelled with a Z. You can follow me on Instagram as well as Twitter. I give out a ton of free content on Instagram. If you're a follower, you will learn a lot about sports betting, sports handicapping. All right, so let's dive right into it. Before we talk about why you shouldn't play public teams, let's look at some examples from the last 2 days. This was tonight. And when we look at these examples, let me explain and talk about what a public team is. A public team is, in sports betting, when the vast majority of tickets or wagers are placed on a team. And the way that I teach it, the way I handicap, I consider that number 53% or higher. So when 53% or higher of the tickets are on a particular team, I consider that team a public team. You say, why do you use 53%? Well, if let's say one team's getting 40, you'll see an example. If one team's getting 48% of the tickets, another team's getting 52% of the tickets, I consider neither team a public team. The reason being is the margin between 48 and 52 is 8%. Take 48 divided by 52 minus 1, that comes to 8%. The margin between 53 and 47 is 12%. So there's a significant margin. So any team getting 53% of the tickets or more or wagers, I consider that a public team. So tonight, Buffalo was your public team, getting 56% of the tickets. They lost. Got hammered. Houston, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay came back. Houston was the public team, getting 58% of the tickets. They lost. Scroll this up. Sorry about my thumb. I'll try to get that out of the way. And there you have it. Dodgers, 53% of the tickets, made a nice comeback, but again, they lost. And I consider that Dodgers a public team. So 0-3. Public teams were 0-3. And let's look at, whoops, that was the wrong one. That was the same one. All right, so let's look at last night. This is a game we had. Chargers and New Orleans. New Orleans getting 53% of the tickets. Chargers 47%. New Orleans considered a public team. They lost. Houston, Tampa Bay. Houston was getting 55% of the tickets last night, and they lost. All right, Atlanta. This is last night's game. Atlanta was getting 44%. Dodgers were getting 56% of the tickets, and they lost. So if you add both of those days up, what do you get? The general public went 0-6 in major sports the last 2 days. Okay? It's a great sort of relevant time to explain this because this is current and you guys actually saw this go down. So why does that happen? Why do public teams lose the majority of time? Well, first off, if you think about, maybe you're watching this video, and if you're not a sharp, you are classified as part of the general public. You're saying, yes, I lose majority of the time when I place wagers. So anything 53% or higher represents the general public, and the general public loses majority of time. And let's talk about why this is. I made a couple notes so I don't forget anything. Because I want to break this down not make it too complicated and very simple where you can understand it. before a line is set, right? Before a line comes out, the sports book already know how the general public is going to respond to a team. What I mean by that, another example, the Kansas City Vegas game, right? What was the line? The line was minus 11, minus 12, Kansas City. Our line had Kansas City minus 3, right? So my line was closer to what actually happened in the game. Vegas won. The sports book sets these lines based on the public's perception of a team in order to balance the books. Okay, so let's pull up. I'm a visual learner, and a lot of you are. So let's look at an example. I talked about that Vegas KC example, but this one's relevant as well. What you're looking at, this is my line from Sunday's game between Carolina and Atlanta. My line was Carolina minus 6. And also, too, if you're new to the channel, this is straight from my stat model. And what I mean by that is it's an unbiased statistical model that is proven to be more successful than the sportsbook line. Whoops, sorry about that. Over time. So I know that my model works. It's proven that it works. So it's not just something that I come up with out of thin air. And there's no subjectivity factored into it. It's just whatever the calculation is, whatever it says, that's what we go with. So my line was Carolina minus 6. However, the sports book line was Atlanta minus 2.5, Carolina plus 2.5, depending on what book you're at. For whatever reason, the general public perceived Atlanta to be better than Carolina, so the sports books compensate for that. And like I've always said, if you play a public team, you're already overpaying for that team because the line should have been, my opinion, maybe a pick 'em or even Carolina favored. So let's hypothetically pretend, let's say the sports book made Carolina the favorite. Carolina was minus 6. What would have happened? That meant Atlanta was plus 6. Everybody would have hammered Atlanta plus 6. Everybody. That's not good for the sports books, right? Because they would have lopsided action, and you have somebody like me that's a sharp. I'm not willing to, lay 6 points for Carolina, right? Because that would be my line. So there's no value in me playing that game, right? So the sports books get lopsided action, which they don't want. So they have to set a line where they can get equal action on both sides. So what they generally do is they inflate one side. In this example, it was the Atlanta side. That makes the dog side attractive to balance the action out. And of course, Carolina won that game 23-16. My line was Carolina minus 6. So pretty accurate stat model. So again, the sports books set the line based on public's perception. And that line is always inflated because they have to make the other side attractive because they know majority of people will play Atlanta, majority of people will play Kansas City. The example we saw from the Giants-Dallas game this weekend, same exact concept. So anytime that you play a public team, you are overpaying for that line. And I posted this on Instagram a while back. When you wager on a public team, think of that as retail. When you are fading the public, going against the public, you are paying wholesale. And if you continue to pay retail, what happens? You can't make money. You can't make money paying retail because if you go with the general public majority of time, you're going to be overpaying those lines. So the solution to all of this, it's very simple. Stop wagering on public teams. Very simple. Just stop doing it. And you have to be disciplined to do that. Whatever you got to do, write it down and just be committed to it. Nobody, myself included, has a stat model that's good enough to overcome line movement. What I mean by that, maybe I come up with my model and there's a particular game that I like. I'm like, wow, this team is, this team should win this game. My stat model is showing a lot of angles that are in favor of this team, but then I go to the actual line and the team that I'm wanting to play is a public team. It's a no play. You have to be disciplined. Oh, I know what I want to show you guys. This was from this is a relatively new client. Had a conversation over the weekend. He sent this to me, and I'm going to read this to you. And this ties in with what we're talking about, how a sports book thinks. Hey, coach, my bookie called today saying I was using sharp lines and threatened to boot me from the book. Aside from the obvious compliment to yourself and additional evidence that you are, in fact, a legit pro, thank you. What would you recommend for this situation? Add books and bet less frequent or more modestly on the main book? Whoops, can't take this away. And of course, I answered and gave several suggestions, and this was his other response. All makes sense. First port of contact, I had the rep said every single bet I made was sharp. So a good sign. I will get on all of the above pretty quickly. And then I comment, it sucks to do all this, but again, necessary evil to be able to get money down. When I talk about getting money down, being able to place a wager. But go back up there where he says, the rep said every single bet I made was sharp. So when I place a wager, I never, regardless of what my stat model says, regardless of my handicapping, if I see that the team I'm going to place a wager on is a public team, I don't place the bet. And if you do that, you will always be on the sharp side. You're not going to always win, but you will probably not lose as much and more than likely end up winning more than you lose simply by being on the non-public side, or what we call fading the public. So very simple concept to understand. If you have questions about that, let me know, but it's a very important concept. And again, I think what happens a lot of times, I battle this too. I've talked about this in some previous videos. We have all these biases that are in our mind that that we're partial to. If Tom Brady's playing on a Monday night or Aaron Rodgers, we think, oh man, they're going to, Green Bay, get Aaron Rodgers on a Monday night, and then it being a heavy public team, and we're influenced by that. So it's definitely something that's hard to fight against, but you have to be disciplined and just make it something that you do, just like brushing your teeth at night. Don't play public teams. And if you do that, you'll be a lot better. And before we go, don't forget, as always, if you want to become a client, it's $29.95 a month. That's our coaching program. I showed you a few examples of my NFL stat model. It is absolutely money. You'll be able to see what the line should be, compare that against the sportsbook line, find value. Will drastically help you improve your handicapping. So you get power rankings for all sports. We got college. We have a college football model right now, NFL, and of course when all the other sports get rolling again as well. We have 12 soccer leagues that we handicap. You'll get lines for all of those. We also have a coaching section where we have videos in there that explain my stat model, how to handicap objectively, which is one side of handicapping, and how to handicap subjectively, which are non-statistical angles. And I usually upload new content each week to the site, so you get like basically a brand new coaching video each week. Now you can get the coaching program along with all of my plays for all sports for $49.95 a month. So everything I just mentioned, you get that. And in addition to that, you get all of my plays for all of the major sports. And finally, the best deal we have is, that $249. That includes everything I just mentioned for an entire year. If you added that up, it would be about $600. But you can join $249, pay it all that up front, and you get access to everything on the site for one full year for $249. So that's your best deal there. So anyway, hopefully that video helps. Again, Avoid playing public teams, fade the public always, and make good wagers. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.